I think we do have already a lot of participants. So hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for this exciting webinar on immersive learning, which is part of the Popular Science Lecture series. My name is Daniel Dantas, and today we will delve into the world of immersive learning, analyzing its implications and how it can foster engagement in the learning process. We will also look at different aspects from digital games and gamification to the cutting edge technologies of extended reality. We will also have a Q&A period, so of course we encourage you to ask your questions. And before we dive in, it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker, Professor António Coelho. António Coelho is an associate professor at the Department of Informatics Engineering at the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Porto, and also the academic leader of Work Package 5 of the UGLO Alliance. And today, he will be guiding us through this fascinating journey into the world of immersive learning. So thank you, and let's make this webinar an enriching experience for everyone.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for the kind introduction. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for being here and watching this popular science lecture. So I hope to bring you some new perspectives on immersive learning. First of all, I would like to thank the kind invitation from Professor Sabina Resetar from the University of Novi Sad to be in these lectures, and also the University of Lund for hosting this lecture, namely for Isabel Nielsen. Thank you very much for also being able to provide all these arrangements. And I'll start my presentation so you can follow my slides, so it will be easier. I was also like to share with you some videos and images that are relevant for this area. So let me just start the presentation. Okay. I think you might be able to see me and the presentation. So my name is António Coelho, and I am a professor at the University of Porto in the Faculty of Engineering. So the University of Porto is part of the UGLO Alliance, and we are very committed to this alliance, and so I'd be honored to be part of this lecture. So in the Faculty of Engineering, I belong to the Informatics department, where I teach and research in the areas of computer graphics, immersive environments, digital games. So this talk will be about not only what I teach and research, but also some of the areas I like and I like to share with others. And this lecture will be about disseminating science and talking about the future challenges that will happen during our future workplace and future life. I'm also a researcher at INESTEC lab. It is a laboratory, one of the main laboratories in Portugal in the area of computer science and computer engineering. And we have a large group, and I'll show here some of the research also that we do in this research institute. And of course, as Daniel has mentioned, I'm deeply committed to the UGLO Alliance. I'm an academic leader at the University of Porto and also coordinating the Work Package 4 on the employability and lifelong learning. And of course, we try to improve the transversal competencies and the competencies you'll have in the future as graduates in all of the Alliance, and trying to improve not only that, but knowing also that learning is one of the main focal points of our life. We'll always be learning because we will have to adapt to the future changes. And I have this sentence I like: learning should be fun. And so I try immersive environments and immersive technology to help improve making learning fun. So I will explore some key concepts about immersive learning, and by that concepts, I would like to structure then the exploration of ideas about games, extended reality, and interactive narratives, a part of the immersive learning approaches, and then some challenges and trends for the future. So what is the key concept of immersive learning? So, of course, the key concept of immersive learning is immersion. And we have this definition by Agrawal from 2019 that says, well, immersion is a phenomenon experienced by an individual when they are in a state of deep mental involvement, in which their cognitive process, with or without sensory stimulation, cause a shift in their attentional state, such that one may experience disassociation from the awareness of the physical world. Well, this is a very complicated sentence, but basically it says, when you're playing a game, when you're highly focused, concentrating on studying something, you probably will not hear someone talking to you because you are highly concentrated in your task. So immersion is that highly concentrated activity experienced by an individual. So you all have experienced that in several kind of situations, but there is a taxonomy that classifies immersion that can arise from three situations. And I'd like to make a point on this. So normally immersion is sometimes only associated with virtual reality and technologies that have deep immersed technology, but immersion can emerge from three different main aspects, which we can see here. For example, the subjective sense of being surrounded. This is normally associated to technological affordance, means when you use a headset of virtual reality, when you use a mobile phone, so you are immersed by the technology. And we'll look upon that and in the terms of extended reality. But also, you can have a feeling of immersion when you are experiencing a narrative, either by reading a book, watching a movie. So you probably experience immersion in also that kind of experience. And when you are challenged to overcome specific tasks, such as in games, you are also in an immersive experience. So we'll focus on extended reality, narratives, and games. So looking at games and the absorption with challenges. So I would like to show you a project that has been done some years ago, but still very actual, with the use of drones or unmanned vehicles. And I like to bring this because drones are now being focused in the news as deadly weapons in warfare. And I to show you how drones can be used to save lives instead. And so this project Icarus was developed and coordinated by although it was a Royal Military Academy, it was focused on the saving wars and the search and rescue operations. And so the focus on this project was the catastrophes, natural catastrophes, such as earthquakes, major floods, or even, for example, the sinking of ships, or crashes of planes. So unfortunately, these accidents occur. They are highly disruptive because all the communications and infrastructures are disrupted or damaged. And so we need to be able to operate unmanned vehicles that do not have the leisure to be injured to save lives as fast as possible. And in that scenario, I'm going to show you a training system based on a game and using a game engine, which is a special software to produce games, such as the ones used by commercial video games. And this was used to train the operators in search and rescue operations to use some of the unmanned aerial vehicles which are normally called drones. Also some sea vehicles that are also unmanned. And so we can see here a simulation. Well, in Zoom, sometimes it can be a little low, but I think you can capture the idea. So this is an aerial vehicle. This will provide imagery, either normal and infrared, detect the victim of a boat that's anchored, for example. Victim will float in the sea, and we have to be able to capture them with a thermal camera. This is a fast boat that is also teleoperated and allows to reach the victims fast, but as it is very fast, it can be dangerous. We see there a victim from the cameras of these boats, and this is how the operators create the route that the boat should do, and as it approaches the victim, it launches a rescue pod. Because the boat is very fast, but also dangerous if it approaches a person, because it can make injuries. So it will detach a rescue pod with some life jacket or an inflatable boat, where the victim can then be more able to survive and then be saved by the other boats. So this is how games can be used for learning how to operate these unmanned robotics that are now commonly used in all kinds of operations, as we know. So Icarus was the name of the project, and it did develop all this modular technology for search and rescue. So another project I'd like to show you, it's an European project as well, in the Horizon 2020, called Beaconing. And the idea of beaconing is, what if you can learn anywhere, anytime? So you learn as you feel more motivated to learn. And sometimes learning does not only occur in classrooms, it occurs outside of classrooms. And if you remember the Bologna principles in higher education, half of the learning process is autonomous outside classrooms. And so let's create games to enable more motivation and engagement in this process. And so we created a system, a platform where game developers are able to create great games. And then instructional designers, learning designers can create great classes based on these games. They use specific tools, and at the end, the students are able to use their mobile smartphone to play these games and learn with these games. I'm going to show you an experience we had in our botanic garden, where the students were able to learn about biology, and also using an interesting storyline about one of our main writers, such as these infant books, and that most of the people know. So by using your smartphone and downloading the app, actually it was it was a web app, so you didn't need to download. They were able to make a location-based game where you go like a treasure hunt, where your smartphone tells you the challenges you have to proceed, and you can do it in a family. This was in a carnival Saturday, so you can see that this child has some fantasy. But it's a very interesting experience for families, for individuals, for students to learn biology in the botanic garden and with the guiding of his smartphone. So you can see the beautiful botanic garden of the University of Porto and the students. So the smartphone app will guide the players to the locations and then ask questions. And so either individually or in family, you'll be able to learn about the biology and botanic. So not only you'll be able to experience the botanic and the plants locally, you'll also have a fun time, an engaging time. So games can also be used in the outdoor to make you learn anytime, anywhere. And in the end, you could win some tickets to the Biodiversity Gallery Museum that is also situated in the same place. So we did an update also on this experience, and we tried to create an experience that connected the biodiversity gallery. And for example, this is where we can see the leaves, and by using augmented reality, we can find the correct leaves of a tree and then go to the garden and find the tree that has these leaves. So this app, although it is in Portuguese, the text, we can we have half of the leaf, we have to find the correct leaf, and at the end you'll be able to go outdoor in the garden and see the tree that has these leaves. And in the garden you'll also be able to see the tree in the different stations, in the different times of the year, because in the winter the leaves fall, and the summer the leaves are green, and there are also some fruits. So now in this step, you go to the garden and find the trees. So you have unlocked some of the trees by finding them in that room. And then you go to the garden to see the trees. You will see the location of the trees, and you go there to see the trees. And you found one tree. And so you can see the real tree that we are seeing in the room inside. So this also allows you to connect museums with the outdoor. So we have been watching what we call serious games, but actually there are other approaches to games or to ludification that focus on not only full games, but using games elements to provide a more engaging experience. So we call it gamification. You probably already have known and listened to that. So gamification is another approach, not using full games, but elements of games to make processes more fun. So this project feedback is an example how to use gamification into engaging people to reduce energy consumption and contribute to reducing the global warming effects. So what if you could save energy by only using your smartphone? And not if, but yeah, we did develop an app that we could use, and this would foster energy consumption reduction. So how does it work? So we created a very interesting story about Mr. C, which has a twin, and one of the twins is highly motivated to save energy, while the other one does the opposite. And so by using comedy, we try to understand or make awareness how some behaviors can save energy while others don't. And they are easy to do, but it's not very difficult to save energy. But we also use some games to provide knowledge of how can we save energy. So what is the ideal lighting in your room? What is the ideal temperature in your room? So you can, for example, if you are in the warm sun, summer season, you can open the window and refresh the room in the morning. And then when the heat comes up, you can close the window, and the temperature of the room will remain good, and you don't have to use air conditioning, which of course uses energy. And finally, we have this soap opera, very interesting series of episodes that was conducting a competition between our institute rooms, and all the people in the rooms were trying to save energy and compete to reduce the energy consumption. And we did actually have like 20% of the reduction of energy. So we also use some notifications. For example, if you are at noon, you have your windows open and the warm outside is heating. And so we say, okay, what if you just close the window and reduce the blinds so that your temperature room will remain cool without air condition while outside it's getting warmer. And so we had the actors of the soap opera telling you directly these notifications. And then, of course, we use game elements like individual points of engagement, some currency we couldn't change in the virtual shopping, and some team currency as well, because you play as a teams in your rooms, and the winning team will be able to give some of the money that was saved to a private institution of solidarity. And so we try to create intrinsic motivation in the audience. Of course, we also have some badges showing, okay, this week you were great, you would save a lot of energy, 20%. And so we did have some badges that allow us to understand or recognize your efforts in this activity. And you can download the EcoPlay app if you want to test it. Okay, so now moving to another area of immersion, we're going for the technology of immersive technologies. So what we call it extended reality, because it provides a set of different solutions, more close to reality, augmented reality, or focusing away from reality in alternate reality worlds. And so that's what we call extended reality. And there is a mixed reality continue or reality virtuality continue that shows us that when we go away from reality, we are in a virtual environment, completely outside reality, apart from reality. Then we can introduce some reality elements in what's called augmented virtuality. And then as we close by reality, we can augment the experience of reality. And we look at these three areas in a moment. So looking at virtual reality. So since it is a technological aspect, what technology do we use in virtual reality? So first, let me tell you that virtual reality is not a new technology. So the first experiences were in the 50s, or almost more than 70 years ago. And the creation of virtual reality as we know it was in a PhD in '68 by Ivan Sutherland, a pioneer on this area. And you can see the very interesting goggles that he uses and the gadgets that he was using at the time. Of course, this was not very practical. And so only now we have very affordable and very comfortable equipment that you can use in virtual reality. So virtual reality is based on the effect of stereoscopy. So we have two eyes because we see different perspectives from each eye, and by our brain makes the conjunction of these two visions and creates a 3D image in the brain. So to create stereoscopy, we have to use two images and using lens project that to each of the eye, and so that our brain can produce stereoscopic imaging or 3D perspective. Nowadays, we have what we call a head-mounted display. So it's something we put on your head and has a display. And this technology is now the more affordable and comfortable to use. We also have some wands, some devices that we use on our hands to be able to interact in 3D. And how does this work? Well, let's deconstruct. This is the deconstructed Oculus Rift, the first one of this generation. And basically we have two lenses, one for the left eye, one for the right eye, and we have a screen where the image is split in two, and each of the two images show a perspective for the left screen and the right screen. So it's a simple technology. Of course, we need high resolution displays to be more comfortable, and less latency, so we can have more comfort and avoid some effects like cyber sickness. So this is the main technology we use in virtual reality. And of course, there are other technologies, and I believe that most of you have gone to the movie and see a 3D movie. And you can see that 3D movies, you have to wear these glasses that has some filters that project to each eye, a double projection. There are two projectors showing different left and right vision projected in the screen, and these glasses that you use, they filter the right image and the left image by using a polarized glass or a plastic. Okay, so very simple technology, although not interactive. But in the future, and nowadays already have some experience, we'll be using holograms where you don't have to use any device, and the 3D will appear in front of you. You can see here an example of a hologram. Hologram technology will be also very important in the future. Let me show you a project we did in virtual reality to show the benefits of virtual reality for learning. So we have Project Massive, where we integrate all the senses, the 5 senses, from the vision to the hearing, the smell, the taste, and the haptic sense, where you feel the temperature in your skin, the wind, or you pick in objects and you touch the objects. So we try to integrate most of the senses in the very perceptually credible experiences in virtual reality. This becomes now a lab. We have this lab focused on multisensory virtual reality. And I'm going to show you some experience in this lab. So one of the experience is about training firefighters. And training firefighters is, of course, dangerous because you have heat and smoke, which are, and they do it sometimes in a container where they practice with heat and smoke. But if they can practice in a safe environment, like a virtual reality environment, then we can improve the training and reduce the risks. So let's look at a video showing us this training in virtual reality, and using not only vision and sounds, but also the skin temperature. So we put the head-mounted display on our heads with sound and 3D vision, and we start engaging in a virtual environment. So this virtual environment reproduces what normally is used in training, a container with fire, and the firemen have to get acquainted to the heat and smoke. And one of the tasks is to save a victim, normally a mannequin. As you can see here, they first have to cool the door, and then they have to enter and save a person from the fire. And they can do this easily with virtual reality.
It's 12:30.
In another great example, one of the operations that firemen must do is that they must enter a room only if they know the height of the fire. And for that, they take out the glove, put the hands on the door, and they feel the heat. And so that piece of equipment that was put in the glove allows the user to feel the heat on the top of his hands. And by feeling that, he knows the height of the fire and knows if he can or not to come in the room, if it's safe or not safe. You see, taking the glove, feeling the heat in the hand, looking at the height, and if the height is not too high, he can enter. If it is too high, it means the fire is, of course, in a very intense moment and is not able to enter. So we see training of operationals by using virtual reality. But now let's look at augmented virtuality. Can we improve the sense of being in a virtual environment by using real objects? Well, this new experience will show us that. So this is our lab in the Massive laboratory. We can see that we have a very open field area, so we can have these experiments, and we put some boards And these boards will provide improved reality sensations. So the user begins with a replica of the lab, and by using these portals, it goes to virtual worlds. So it now has to go through this catwalk, and as he put his foot on top of it, he feels that his foot is also on the board, on the wood board. So that feeling of a real object is impacting his brain, and he really feels that he's on top of that object. For example, this is an avalanche where we produce, for example, we can lower the temperature of the room and use winds, a machine that controls wind, and so that the user also feels the low temperature and the wind of this avalanche because it's a multi-sensory stimulant that is very important. So he continues to wander the virtual world. And this is another portal. Now is going to this is a very interesting experience I have experienced myself, and it gives you a very sense of vertigo. So, and as you put your foot on top of that board, you really feel that you are so high in this skyscraper. And some people just run to the elevator on the right. We have some devices here that vibrate the floor as the spaceship just passes through. So you also feel the vibration of the floor. And all these senses provide you an intense feeling of being there, the feeling of presence. So this provides you a very high sense of vertigo. Some people run away to the elevator when they experience this, because although they know it's safe, the brain tells you the opposite. So you are in a high level of immersion in this experience. And now a garden, and as you approach the last key you have to pick, you can sense the smell of the flowers, and we have using a special device that provides different kinds of smell that you can capture in the natural environment. This is the device that puts smell on front of you, and you can smell, of course, in this case, the flowers, but you can also put other kinds of smell like food, or for example, a bird circuiting in your electric board and so on. So a virtuality reality experience, augmented virtuality experience. But of course, we also need immersive environments when you're doing training and learning in real situations. So let's look at augmented reality. Augmented reality is also an area of immense progress. Of course, augmented reality also was born in the 90s, in the last century, with devices like this. Tom Coelho named it augmented reality in 1990. And you can see the work of Steve Feiner in 93, that was the precursor also of this area. And what devices do we have now? So devices now, for example, the HoloLens, the Microsoft HoloLens, allows us to look through the glasses that has an image projected, and this image is projected in our 3D vision in front of us. So it is virtual, but we feel that it is present in our visual fields. How does this work? So this is very complicated scheme, but basically we have a glass in front of us. It's not, it is inclined so that we can see through the glass, but some projector is projecting images on that glass. And again, projecting different perspectives on the left and right eye will allow us to see in 3D over the real image. Another optional is the new technology from Apple Vision Pro, for example. They don't use, we cannot see through the glasses, we only see through a display, but the glasses have cameras that are capturing the image, and we see through the cameras. It's called video see-through. And this is the patent that Apple has put. So you can see that there are some cameras in front of the display to provide this augmented reality experience. And let me show you experience we did with augmented reality in a botanic garden also. We like botanic gardens. And to learn about birds of prey, this is the first application, by using your mobile phone, a very much simpler technology. So it looks like a binocular, and we see augmented some bird silhouettes. And by clicking on the bird, you have to guess which bird it is by the silhouette you can see here, okay? And by that, you are learning about birds. Even if they don't fly at that time, you can augment and create the situation. But you have really different games, and this other game uses augmented reality. Look at the walls. The walls are full of life. They have plants, they have animals, insects, and so you can try to capture the real or the virtual elements. These are the researchers. And one interesting thing about this project is that you can switch from the day to the night vision. And so we can see the life in the walls at night. Of course, at night, normally the botanical garden is closed, but you can see in the day how the night animals and plants, what are their status. So we can provide additional information that normally you cannot see in reality. So an application of augmented reality using a smartphone called mobile AR. And finally, a tool for training in industrial environments. So we created this project together with BIBA and Delft, the TU Delft. And basically it's about training for welding. Welding is a very important activity in industry. There are not so many technicians, and we have to train them the best we can. Normally they are trained using real instruments, but they got damaged, they can injure persons. So we developed a system that can be used for virtual reality, for augmented reality, with augmented reality for training. So you can see here a video of the training. So we have the same kind of vision. The goggles simulate the protection device they use normally. So the vision is the visual aspect of the welding is produced very realistic, but there is no danger of using material. That it's all by using immersive technology. We can also even add some information how to weld well and the quality of the welding for the trainee over the image that you can see. You see there information about the temperature, and so even the sound is similar. So it's very immersive and highly effective in training for the welding for the industry. And finally, let's look at how you can use narratives. Interactive narratives is one of the options we have. And this project, Play the Odds, is a very important project that I've been involved. It's about developing game-based communication tool to help parents and children facing hereditary cancer risk. And so we created an experience called a sound walk. Actually, this experience was presented in one of our EUGLO summits in Lund. Colleagues from Lund developed this sound walk experience, and we try also to use that in this project to help communication. And so by walking in a park, you are able to learn to hear this narrative and talk to your companion, your children, by using a more comfortable, more exciting space, more calm space to talk about things that are complicated. So as key findings, we see the power of the narrative, the interactivity. We can use non-linear stories. You can change how the story goes. And you can introduce also games and extended reality. So now to finish this talk, as the time goes by, challenges on inclusion. So one of the main aspects of EUGLO, and particularly the work package I coordinate, work package 4, is inclusion of all the students in an international experience. And so these devices that we have seen, mainly the devices about immersive technology, they have some problems in usability. So one of the challenges is how can we create devices that provide virtual reality for all? Because some people don't have this stereoscopic vision. They cannot see in 3D, for example. Some people they have a blindness, for example. But they can hear in 3D. And so we can create a multimodal, multisensory experience that provides virtual reality for all. So and make it more usable. Of course, you can use these headsets for 1 hour, but after 2 hours, you experience fatigue. So the usability should be enhanced. But of course, there are some usability heuristics applied to virtual reality. And for example, you can see Jacob Nielsen's, one of the pioneers of web accessibility, that also is entering now the extended reality area. But of course, we should not focus only on usability, make it more, usability is about making more satisfying, more efficient experiences, but about accessibility. So some people will suffer from some impairments or special needs, and we should be able to cope with that and create experiences that are accessible to all. And when I mean to all, I mean, is it about just people with specific impairments, like blindness, for example? No, because we all can suffer injuries and become impaired temporarily. So by using an inclusive perspective on technology, we can not only focus on special needs of some people, but also on everyone that sometimes has a special need, either because of injury or because someone is driving and cannot look at a smartphone, for example. So temporarily, while you are in a task, you might not be able to use your vision for everything. So you might rely more on just a glimpse of vision, and especially on hearing. And of course, we have to understand that this technology is expensive, and disadvantaged students may not be access to that. So we have to create these experiences that can run and be experienced in affordable devices like the Google Cardboard, a small device that uses a smartphone and can be used at very affordable prices. And finally, as a final message, and the time is right on the limit, I think that we can use immersive technologies, immersive learning to in this digital transformation, because as AI evolves, and AI will be part of our future labor work scenario, we'll need more technology to augment our capabilities. So we are providing research towards an augmented human that can cope with the challenges of AI, of all the collectively intelligent ecosystems. And so this is my message to you, showing a little about immersive learning and showing that immersive learning is not only virtual reality or augmented reality. We have games, we have interactive narratives, and we have extended reality that focus on very different technologies. So thank you for listening. I will now be able to ask some questions.
Yes, so thank you for your presentation, Professor António Coelho. As we initially said in the introduction, we encourage you now to ask your questions to Professor António Coelho through the Q&A feature in this room session. We have already received a question in the Q&A. So, Professor António, what steps can be taken to ensure that gamification is inclusive and does not unintentionally exclude certain user groups?
So, thank you for the question. It's indeed a challenge. So what we normally do when you create an app with gamification. So gamification, I think that has two problems. So one problem is that sometimes it's focused on extrinsic motivation. And this motivation sometimes is because if you don't do something, then you are penalized. So we can see that, for example, in jobs, if there is a scoreboard about the different workers, then if you are in the last, maybe you will be the next to be fired. And so it's not very good motivation. So we would like to focus on intrinsic motivation, okay, making people change behaviors, change attitudes, because they feel that they need to do that, it's good for them. And one of the major focus of EUGLO Alliance is on the global health and well-being. And so we want to produce gamification that is for the well-being of everyone. And the question about inclusive, it's important because we want to be for everyone. So if you have some sort of impairment or special needs, the application should be able to provide you different modalities. So in this case, what we have done, for example, in the feedback app, was in the narratives. We use, of course, image and sound and also subtitles in different languages. So not only we make it inclusive for persons that cannot use the vision at the best, or they cannot hear, but also in different language for the different cultures of our EUGLO Alliance. It's because interculturality is also a major aspect. We want to be able to reach everyone. So I think by using and inclusive design, it's not you don't have to add another budget or increase your budget. It's such how you approach design. And by using design in a multimodal way, using voice, text, sound, you can make it inclusive without much more costs. And so it's an approach, not an extra effort to make it inclusive. So inclusive design should be the aim of every designer, every developer. Thank you for the question.
António Martins asked if the webinar recording and the presentation will be made available to the participants. Yes, we can confirm that the webinar recording and the presentation will be made available to the participants. We also received another question from a user that congratulated you, Professor António.
Thank you.
Coelho, for this excellent webinar and enlightening presentation. Could you elaborate more about how immersive learning can be a tool for innovation and internationalization in education?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you very much. So immersive learning has many perspectives on how to be used in, and I tried to show you only some of those, how to be used to make it more effective learning. So in the scope of EUGLO, for example, we have a European campus. And so students are located in different countries apart from each other. And so we can use immersive environments, for example, to make more the feeling of presence in a common classroom, for example. There are nowadays many softwares that allow us to be in a virtual environment and collaborate and have classes, have conferences, have meetings, and where you feel that you are in this classroom with your friends, your colleagues from the different, so I think that we could and should promote these virtual environments for learning in a virtual campus without the need for mobility, physical mobility. Of course, you want physical mobility as well, and we also promote that. And in the case of where the students are in the same environment, for example, we promote the possibility to learn outside the classroom more effectively and efficiently. How? For example, by using augmented reality. And we have seen in Botanic Garden, we can learn biology and look at the plants directly, look at the plants in different times of the year, how they look, because a visit to the Botanic Garden gives you only a glimpse of the life around us in a certain time of the year that is variable, of course, during the different seasons. So we try to use virtual reality, augmented reality, but also games. So games provide challenges, and I didn't show here as well, but for example, we are doing a project on immersive escape rooms, where people in different countries can integrate a challenge in an immersive environment, a virtual environment, and solve escape rooms. I think escape rooms, for example, are a very playful activity that allows us to learn with more freedom than traditional games, for example. And they are being used for entertainment. And during the visits I have done, for example, in Hamburg or Lund, we see a lot of escape rooms. In Hamburg, for example, there were escape rooms in the boats in the harbor. Some of the boats have escape rooms, for example, for entertainment, and you can use it for learning. And major point for me about immersive learning is learning should be fun. And that's tools that make learning more fun and more accessible, more inclusive, and more situated, so where you can experience. For example, in a class of history, you can experience a visit to the old Rome and talk to the Romans in that time, for example, to visit the Colosseum and look through the eyes of the spectators how they were feeling in that different activities.
We also received a question from one of our participants. Professor António, what are the next steps in immersion technologies?
Okay, very good. So nowadays, I feel that virtual reality is now affordable and comfortable to be used in industry, in the learning process. The head-mounted displays are now in a phase where you can use it and with reliability and efficacy in classes, for example, and also in the industry. But of course, they will have a way to have more resolution, to become much more real, more close to reality. Of course, they should have more. So we have some devices that are wireless. We can use it without connecting to a computer, but the resolution and the kind of imagery that are processed in the GPU, in the graphics processing unity, are not so good as those glasses that have a cable connected to a good computer with a good graphics board, and that provides very realistic imagery. And so the aim will be to provide much more realistic imagery, much more resolution in the glasses, and of course, glasses that are more light, not so intrusive. And this is the main challenge, for example, for augmented reality. In augmented reality, the goal, and there are some projects already very close to that, is that the glasses will be like those. Just the normal glasses you wear will be used for providing you augmented reality, not those gears that you put on your head that hit and are some intrusive and make you look a little weird if you wear it in the roads and the streets. And so I think the challenge is to make more resolution, more close to the reality, more visual fidelity, and more easy to use, more comfortable to use. And this could be used in our everyday life, because then you'll be able to use it as you navigate through the streets. And one thing that I didn't show here, but I think it's a trend, is that the smartphones will disappear in 10 years and they'll be replaced by smart glasses. Because then you can see the screen of your smartphone just in front of you, and you can interact with your fingers without having to have a device in your pocket, in your purse, as we now use that with very large screens, our smartphones. So a tendency for them to disappear and be replaced by smart glasses.
Well, Professor, we are receiving a lot of questions, but I think we still have enough time for 2 or 3 more. The next one, Professor, is: can immersive learning be incorporated as teaching and learning methodology in any study area?
Yes, and thanks for the question. It's really very important. Yeah, indeed. So, for example, the Beaconing project was focused on STEM, so the learning of science, technology, maths, and engineering, which normally are more difficult to create games for learning in that areas. Areas like history or natural science, for example, can be easier in a way, but of course, because we can, for example, in history, we can reproduce the episodes of history. We can create games about that, create scenarios. and it's more contextual based. So you can use in any area. So any kind of immersive technologies or immersive learning approaches can be used in any area. And it's only a matter of imagination and, of course, having the possibility of developing or designing these tools. So some tools are already available. For example, I use games a lot in classes in tools like Wood Club or Kahoot, where simple quizzes, activities can be used for learning to engage students in learning. Of course, you can use augmented reality and virtual reality in some experiences. Even with commercial games. Some commercial games, for example, they provide historical facts. And for example, the Call of Duty World War II edition was based, they actually hired historians and they moved the team to the locations where the battles occurred so they can provide accuracy in historical facts. So actually, when you're playing this game, you are learning history. And that, for example, Assassin's Creed also shows you how people lived in the medieval ages. So some commercial games also can be used as commercial movies, for example, in class as well. And so I think that it should be, there are some companies also developing serious games for many areas, including, for example, the basic or elementary school, where children are more prone to learn from games and with great graphics and audio for a more engaging learning platforms for collaborative learning, where students can learn also at home with colleagues by using their games and their computers. So I think you can use every area, and well, you have to rely only on your imagination and, of course, on the resources to be using some tools or to develop these tools.
Well, Professor, we also have a question from Mohammad Alizadeh. Can this science be used in structural construction projects?
Yes, yes. For example, we have seen the augmented virtuality concept, where we could, of course, simulate a student in construction. So we can actually go to a specific building, and this can be mostly done automatically, since in civil engineering, we are already using CAD and BIM for describing the projects before we construct them. This information can be combined to generate the virtual reality scenarios, and you can actually can walk through the construction process of the building before it is actually being built. So we can use this to simulate also different kinds of scenarios. So we can have different kinds of options in the design of the building. We can define different kinds of structures and understand how it can be affecting the building itself. And we can also simulate that, for example, in earthquakes. So we can simulate earthquakes and see how the building will respond to this stimulus. So I think I asked your question. I think yes. So we can use simulations. You can use information from CAD and BIM projects and create this immersive experience where students and professionals can visit the future real buildings in virtual reality.
Shout out to the anonymous participant that sent this interesting question. Could you give an idea of immersive learning, if the immersive learning can be a tool for innovation in digital marketing and online shopping?
Yes, indeed. So, for example, one of the, I think, for example, games are a great tool for marketing. So we used, we created a project, not really for marketing, but we wanted to understand the user behavior. And so marketing mostly tries to understand user behavior and motivations. And for example, in this project, we tried to create a game where there was a fire in a building, and we wanted to understand the behavior of users escaping a fire. And this helped us to create then AI agents to simulate future projects. And this game tried to understand if people would follow people running in one direction, or they would follow the signaling of the escape routes. So how they would behave in a fire. And by modeling this behavior, we are able then to simulate for any kind of building plants how people will respond, and if the signaling and the architecture is good for people being escape any eventual fire. So I think that can be used as well in marketing to understand the behavior of the consumer, but also, and this is another more not such on marketing, but more on advertising. A lot of brands are using branding games, where you create games where for example, in a car racing game, where a specific brand puts their automobile there, and when people play, they play with that automobile, and they get a value, at the added value of that brand to their lives. So you can use branded games as well for advertising. So there are a lot of studies about marketing and advertising with games, mainly with games. But of course, you can also use augmented reality in, for example, in campaigns where, for example, the clothing shopping, they also have these smart mirrors where you can look at the mirror and see yourself dressed with specific clothes. So we can actually use that for marketing by using by seeing yourself using a specific device, specific clothes, specific shoes, etc. So it's a lot of promising technology, immersive technology for marketing.
To finish, we still have a question from Mariana Milheiro. In which area do you think it is most important, or are they all interconnected?
In which area?
Do you think it is most important? I think that Mariana is referring to the use of immersive tools. Okay,
I think that immersive tools have a potential to reach all areas. Of course, you can see, and we have also at the project we developed in health, for example. So nowadays, we can see that the plane pilots are highly trained in all kinds of emergency situations. And this allows them to be very effective. And we have all of us were aware of that plane that landed in the Houston River, for example, with success, saving all the lives. Well, the pilot was a great pilot, of course, but he trained this operation thousands of times, tens of times in simulators. And so this can be done also for the medical doctors, where they can, in the learning process, for example, or in their when preparing for a surgery, they can use augmented reality and virtual reality to train teams together. And this was the project we developed, for example, because in very rare surgeries, for example, you have to bring doctors from different parts of the country or of the world to work together. And they have to train these team dynamics to perform it the best possible way. And so we can use augmented reality and virtual reality together. And that's something we call mixed reality, okay? When augmented and virtual reality are together. And you can have remote persons operating with you in, for example, a mannequin of a surgery lab, where you can use augmented reality to perform, and have other medical doctors operating remotely, and the team will perform this surgery together and train for that before the actual surgery, so that they can be highly effective and efficient to save the lives. So I think, for example, in health and well-being, also well-being, there's an area where we can use gamification to promote better well-being. We can use also immersive environments, and there are a lot of projects about using this. For example, a project that we also were involved, it is very interesting, is about using virtual reality in ICU care, so intensive care units. So the patients are normally in an awful environment full of machines, of noise, and by using virtual reality, we can put them into an alternative reality of relaxing, of sun, of relaxation, where they can improve their recovery faster and without so much traumatic experience. And so we can use it everywhere. And I think that in health and well-being, for example, it will be a huge impact, but also in industry. Industry is now using these daily for training, especially for training and projecting or planning activities. So, and those are the most important areas that I think that are now being used: health, well-being, and industry.
Well, users keep actively sending their questions in the Q&A feature, but to finish, I will mix two questions in one. So in general, how long can it take to go from an idea to a pilot stage of a simple experience? And how do you perceive universities will include these tools in the learning and research processes?
Great, thank you for the questions. So I think that depending on so an immersive approach can be done, and from an idea to a development can be done easily if you simplify first your idea. And so, for example, there are a lot of tools available for free that you can use, like Kahoot or Uclap, that promote simple games in the class, for example. Then you can also use, for example, virtual environments can be synthetic, as I showed you, but also they can be videos. So we can use 360-degree cameras and record a video and then reproduce it in an immersive display. So that can also be fast to put it in action. So if you want to for example, show the students some images of Rome, of a castle, of a lab, you can actually film that or bring it from, or YouTube also has some videos that are in 360 degrees, and you can experience that in class. Also, you can use these games or escape rooms easily so putting it in practice. Some ideas are simple, some will be very complex. So, but you can try it and use the available tools. For example, augmented reality has also some simple tools that you can use for simple experiences using marker-based or, for example, using some QR codes. You can create some easy-to-use tools to create some good experiences. Sorry, I think I've missed one of the part of the question.
How do you perceive universities will include
in
the learning and research process?
So, for example, our university has bought a professional license for games in classes, the Uclap. So we have an agreement, and all professors can use that. Actually, I'm going to, in the afternoon, I'm having a training in Uclap for the colleagues to use this tool that has been acquired by university. I think the medical schools also have been hiring a lot of lab facilities for training with mannequins, instrumented mannequins. And we can then use also games and immersive technologies to provide additional. So I think universities will use that more often in the future, and I think in the near future, because not only the training is more effective, but the costs are less. So you can save money also by investing in these technologies, because by using real situations, it's much more expensive, and sometimes not as effective because you only have a few time to do that in a real hospital, for example. So I think that these technologies, so in the industry, they are already being adopted because they save money. So the universities will also, I believe, will also go for these technologies and these immersive approaches because they save time and money and make more efficacy in the learning process and make it more fun as well. And we all always like to learn as a fun activity. So I hope I have answered most of your questions. I know that you have more questions. I feel very pleased that it raised your interest. I hope that you will be experiencing these immersion approaches in your future and in your future. And EUGLO will also organize some activities in this area, so be aware also of the EUGLO activities. So, for example, last year we had a summer school on immersive media for health and well-being, and so we'll be able, we will have it also this year, and it will be in Porto. Last year was in Hamburg, but more activities will arise in this area, so be aware for that. So thank you very much for your attention, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Professor António. Considering we are running out of time for today's webinar, we would like to thank you all for your participation in today's session, and well, a special appreciation to Professor António for sharing his fantastic insights. Stay tuned for the next webinar of the Popular Science Lecture series and other upcoming activities and events. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.